Hi, welcome to this week's episode of the Mojo Moment, brought to you by Marketing Mojo, marketects who build for brands at the intersection of profit and purpose, where good business happens. I'm Lisa Bowman, the Chief Mojo Officer of Marketing Mojo. My guest today is Jill Haber. Jill is a people connector. She has been using her platform on LinkedIn to help those displaced by COVID find a job, while she herself is actually displaced. So Jill, thank you for giving of yourself. Thank you for leveraging your platform, and welcome to the Mojo Moment. So happy to have an opportunity to have you tell your story today.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. I'm really excited to be here and excited to talk to you. I know we've talked before, and I had such a great time that I'm so excited you invited me onto your podcast.
Thanks. I really felt like when we talked before, and I think I told you this, like we just hit it off. Sometimes you run across
Totally.
somebody randomly. I think the universe works in mysterious ways, right? And so sometimes somebody is put into your path for a reason that you may not know right at that moment, and maybe you don't realize it until later. But it was a great conversation. And when we were done, I was like, I feel like I've known her forever, and could not wait, quite frankly, until we came out of this and you and I can have a chance to get together over a glass of wine or something and sit and
Please.
talk. I know it can't happen soon enough, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I should point out that I did throw on a pair of foreign shields for you today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is, we talked about that and the fact that I truly believe anything is possible in 5-inch heels. And that is my credo that I live by. So thank you for doing that. I
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.
Thanks. So we found a bunch of commonalities. We both like to work out. We talked about spinning. I know you paddleboard, which I haven't tried yet, but definitely on my list of things to do. So we hit those points of commonality. We're both marketers by background.
Yes.
So would love to hear just a bit about your background in the spirit of leveraging too, what you've tried to do with getting others back to work.
Yeah.
Um, let's get your background out there. Let's talk about you and the work that you've done.
Yeah. So, my most of my background has been in experiential marketing. So event marketing, mostly business to consumer, some business to business. I've worked on clients from Stella Artois to Toyota to the aerospace industries. So I've really kind of run the gamut of projects that I've worked on and things that I've done. Mostly on the agency side from an account management standpoint. I've been an account director. I've been a senior project manager. I've been a group account director. So, um, yeah, I just love doing marketing. Unfortunately, experiential has really found that it's been hit really hard by COVID because events aren't happening. So brands aren't out there to activate. So my industry was basically put on hold. I don't want to say it was decimated because I think we will come back. It just might take some time. So my background really is bringing brands to life. And I love doing that. And, that sort of translated a little bit into what I've been doing on LinkedIn. So, I call myself a people connector. And I think that's really sort of one of the things, because I've been doing experiential events for such a long time. It really is connecting brands with people. I love meeting people. I love getting myself out there. I love putting brands out there. I'm very much my father's daughter. He was that dad that used to embarrass me when I was a kid and talk to anyone in the grocery store. And now I do that. And I'm like, oh, I just turned into my dad, right?
I have one of those too, so I get it.
I think that's sort of where my love of connecting people and connecting brands with people came from. And I've sort of repurposed that now that I've been laid off to what I've been doing on LinkedIn. So as you and I spoke about previously before we ever recorded this, I have a really large LinkedIn network and it has grown. It grew because of a viral post that I put up about being laid off several months ago, and it resonated with people. And I've been able to sort of share the love and share the joy and spread the word for people who are also unemployed through LinkedIn. And while it's not a job, it's keeping me busy and it's bringing me happiness and helping other people. So.
And sometimes that's what it's all about these days, right? We're living in these challenging times, and so one of the things that struck me when we first talked, and I learned about your background, and you connect brands and people, right? And so as that connector, like I for some reason, a random word association thing, right? But it took me back to like Lincoln Logs and Legos and the connector. But
I love
I,
those.
I think today people and brands are becoming synonymous, right? You've got people that they are in fact brands, and it's not just celebrities, it's people that have become content creators
Yes.
on LinkedIn, right? You've got so many marketers that are out there. And we're all trying to stay relevant. I mean, for me, the Mojo Moment originated because I recognized that there were people that had that intersection of sort of purpose and platform, and I wanted to bring those moments to life. But it, it's turned into a branded thing, right? It's become the Mojo Moment. And so I think what you're doing, and what we talked about the first time really struck me like deep in here, because I remember you telling me, yes, I'm unemployed, but I'm in a better position than some other people, right? I'm
Yes.
not worried about where the food on my table is coming from or having a roof over my head. There are other people out there. And so I felt this obligation to leverage what I have and bring that to bear to help some other people that maybe are not as fortunate as I am. And that to me, in this environment, was just so unabashedly selfless that it just resonated with me. And I'm humbled and I'm inspired by you and what
Thank you.
you've done, because I think it's amazing. And while people are leaning in to help each other, right? You see the posts. If we worked together in the past, let me know if I can write a recommendation for you. Let me know. You have actually turned this into something that is taking your time, right? You're
Yeah.
compiling these profiles of people, you're posting them every day, you're encouraging people to get to read about this person and know about this person. Let's get so and so back to work. And that, like, I know what it takes to create the content for this. You're doing it every day. And it's not a job. You're not getting paid. You're doing it out of a place of wanting to truly be helpful. So what was it that inspired you to do that? I mean, even
Yeah.
Bloomberg picked this up and gave you some coverage, which is like amazing.
They did. Yeah. It was
So
crazy. It was crazy. I had terrible timing, but my car lease was ending shortly after I lost my job at end of July was when my lease was up, and I lost my job at the beginning of April. So in June, I got a phone call from the dealership, as they do, and the woman was lovely, but then asked me, "Will you be leasing or buying another car from us?" And it was kind of the first time I had to tell somebody I didn't know that I didn't have a job. And I said, "Well, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I haven't figured that out because I'm not working." And the tears kind of started to flow, but I held it together and I stopped myself and continued the conversation. And I hung up the phone and I just lost it. I started crying, and I'm a pretty strong woman, and it had been like a little over 2 months at that point that I'd been unemployed, and I hadn't let it affected my psyche. And I was, confident, and that kind of did it. I was like, oh gosh. And then my head went, you got to put this in writing. That's just how I am. So I wrote a LinkedIn post, meant really for like the small network I had at the time. Just kind of my frustrations and being unemployed, and this happened. And I finally broke down, but I'm not going to let it stop me. I need to keep moving forward. Uh, and the post went viral, and it's been seen by like 370,000 people at this point, which is crazy to me, which is so crazy because it was not meant for it wasn't meant ever in my head to go viral. It was sort of meant to say to my network, "Hey, I'm frustrated. I'm unemployed. Can you help?" Right. And what happened from that was I got so many DMs and so many comments, all of which were positive, but they were from people all over the US and even in other countries saying, "I'm in the same position as you." I talked about how I left a job after 9 months when my dad got sick, and I was able to spend time with him before he passed. And so, um, people had reached out to me and they said, "My resume, has some gaps in it too," or, but most of what I heard was, uh, "I don't know what I'm going to do. My spouse lost their job," or, "I have 3 kids and also have to make sure that they're being homeschooled now," or, "I have a child with special needs," or a spouse with who's ill, things like that. And people telling me that they didn't know where their next uh, mortgage payment or rent payment was going to come from, that they were going to have to sell their car, sell their house. And it made me realize, like we talked about, that I was in a position that I am fortunate that I have savings. I have a nest egg. It certainly wasn't meant, if you will, to help me through a pandemic being unemployed. It was more meant to buy a property, but I have it and it's there. I have a loving mother who isn't going to let me fall on my face. God forbid I ever get to that point. And so I have a backbone, I have a foundation, and not everybody has that. And it kind of made me think like, I'm okay. I'm not, yes, I want to get back to work. I love working, but I'm not going to lose the roof over my head. And I'm not going to have to figure out like how to pay my bills, if I don't go back to work in the next year or so. So that's where I was like, well, there are so many people who are worse off than me in this situation. There are so many people out there who don't have that ability for whatever reason. And I can do something now to help them. So from that post, my LinkedIn network grew and grew and grew. I used to have this LinkedIn policy of, if I didn't know you, or we didn't work in the same industry, or we didn't have common connections, that I just would decline your invitation. And that post made me realize, well, that's kind of stupid, Jill. That's a little bit of a silly, silly way to think about LinkedIn. I'm not putting personal information up there. It's my job. It's public anyhow. So why am I declining people who could potentially, I could help or they could help me? So just accept them. And so I started accepting people, kind of changed my mindset, accepting more people on LinkedIn, and my network has grown. I'm a little under 3,000 people, which isn't huge, but it certainly is more. But because I had that one viral post, what I post tends to go a little bit more viral now than if I didn't have a wider connection or wider network. So yeah, for me, it was like 2 or 3 days after I put the viral post up, there was this mojo moment, this aha moment where I was like, well, I can help people. So, while I don't have a job, like, why am I not doing this? And from that, a writer from Bloomberg was writing an article about the effects of what happens when this happened, I should say in past tense now, but when the $600 a week extra at the end of July expired. And so this is prior to it expiring. And she had a couple of different people that she interviewed. So she reached out to me and how is it going to affect my life? And it was an interesting article because it was, there were 3 or 4 people that she interviewed and everyone had a different perspective. Also from there, they also did an online piece with me. It was just a short online piece via Zoom that they put out on their Twitter. So it's been an interesting ride. I've made some great connections. I had a message this morning from somebody I helped get an interview. She had a couple interviews with a company. And so she and I have been messaging back and forth. She lives in Miami, works in a completely different industry. She called me one day and wanted to talk, and she's been lovely. I've met somebody locally who works in my industry, and she and I went out for a very socially distant coffee, and then we had a socially distant dinner the other night. Lives in LA, and she's become my friend now, and I think she's awesome. And I'm so excited that I've met her, and I've met people like you. I've met people like Matt Wolf, who has helped me tremendously, and he and I have been working on a project for a webinar coming up in September. So, regardless of whether or not I'm making a paycheck out of this, which I am, I am not attempting to make money off the backs of people who are not working. That is really not how I operate, and I don't want to do that. But it's keeping me busy, and it's giving me a lot to do, and it's it's helping me mentally also to get through this unemployment time.
So let's actually talk about making money, right? Because that is a necessary evil.
Yes.
And the world will come back, right? What it looks like when it comes back, I don't think we know. I think we know it won't be the same. But what's next for you? If you had to forecast the future, look into the magic 8 ball and say, you know what, this is where I want to go next, right? Not the future is uncertain, hopefully, but shake up that magic 8 ball and figure out what is it for Jill.
Yeah, retired on a beach. No, no. Obviously, that's not happening right away. But for me, I think it's 2 things. I want to find a position that is creative in nature, whether that's a marketing or a sales role. For me, I love that creative side of whatever it is that I do. I love having the people around me and myself who can help think outside the box. So I've been looking at marketing roles. I've been looking at business development and sales roles. I've done a lot of business development on the agency side, and for clients. And specifically at my last role, I led a team of lead generation people. So that's, being the people connector, the sales thing is also in my DNA. And so I've been looking at a lot of marketing roles and a lot of sales, business development. And that's really where I want to kind of take my career, maybe do a little bit of shift out of the agency world.
Sure, totally makes sense. And you talked about that experience with the woman from the car lease. And I
Yes.
remember us talking about this during our first conversation, right? We're both pretty strong together females. But there was that moment, right? And we talked about that cathartic moment. And I also did sort of my coming out post on LinkedIn where I had to open it up to the fact and show that vulnerability that I too had lost my job. And it was a really tough thing to do because for me, my identity was so wrapped up in my professional self. And so I felt this loss of that I, I'm not this person anymore, I'm a private citizen. And does
Yep.
that still make me not attractive, but does it make me appealing? Will people still want to engage with me? And I had to have that cathartic moment and that recognition that, wait a minute, the work that I've done is my work, right? It's not that title on my business card. That's a piece of it, but it's a forward facing piece of the persona. So it doesn't change who I am or the skills that I have or what I bring to the table.
Yep.
And so as you talked through that story, like I remember having that same moment too. And quite frankly, I remember telling my dad, right? I've got the dad that talks to everybody in the grocery store too. So I get it. But I remember not telling my dad, quite frankly, for a bit because I just couldn't get it out. I didn't want him to worry. He was so proud of where I'd come professionally, and I didn't want to let him down.
Yep.
And so I remember like having that conversation with him, and that was my moment like that where I finally told him, and we'd been on the phone for a good 20 minutes, and I was like trying to get there and get over that hump and tell him, and I remember just bursting into tears and thinking, I just let him down. I disappointed him because I've lost my job. And what you have to get back to is that recognition for all of us, right? That this is not anything that was within our control. This is a
Yep.
once in a lifetime event that's impacted so many of us in so many ways. And to your point, like, I'm okay, you're okay, but there are people that are wondering how long before my car gets repossessed?
Yep.
How am I going to put food on my table? People that are dual income households that are both unemployed. And it's a really, really tough time for
It
people.
is.
So I just, like I said, I'm humbled by what you did and I respect it. And
Thank you.
I thought it was so cool. So
Thank you. Yeah, it's been an awesome experience because I've met so many people in different industries, and across the U.S. So, just this week we had somebody who was a UX designer. That the guy I have up there today is in tech. I've had somebody who amazing creative directors and graphic designers, people in sales. I have a gentleman who was in the same job for 25 years coming up. So, it's all over, and it's not affecting any certain level. It's not affecting younger, and it's old or older. It's everybody. It's not So I think that when you talk about it being tough to tell people you don't have a job, I think that's because as adults, we're trained to, like, one of the second or third questions we always ask people is, what do you do for a living? Because it's a starting point. I think that narrative is changing a little bit. I think people are a little less likely to ask what you've done. I think people are a little less embarrassed to say, well, I lost my job, just because it's so common now. But yeah, it drives your self-worth, right? But for better or worse, it really does. And so, it's a hump for women like, you and I to get over. And it's tough to have to say to people, well, I don't have a job right now, but it's rampant. It's unfortunately, and hopefully it's coming back soon. We don't know when and how, but I've seen a little bit more of, on LinkedIn, I've seen more people get jobs and congratulating people for getting jobs. And that's amazing. And I hope it's soon, because I think that, I'd love to see all those little green circles of the open to work on LinkedIn. I'd love to see those go away. I'd love to take mine off, and I'd love to see other people, take theirs off, and I'd love to see all of that go away.
Yeah, we may need to start a hashtag on that to get rid of the green circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the last couple minutes that we've got, couple just random questions for you. Would love to know during quarantine, while you've had some time on your hands, what have you been binge watching?
Oh, well, Ozark, but that took like a week at
Yeah,
most.
me too.
I even got my mom to watch seasons 1 to 3, and she did it in like a week. So Ozark was probably my go-to to begin with. Of course, everyone watched The Tiger King, right? God, it's embarrassing, but they did. I'm about to start Yellowstone. I've heard really good things about that. Gosh, I've been binge watching a lot of news in the past week, which is my brain needs to get away from that. So I've kind of gotten through a lot of Netflix.
I'm with you on the Ozark thing. I binge watched all
show.
3 seasons. It's actually filmed here in Atlanta.
Yes.
So one Sunday we took a ride up and saw some of the filming locations and where they shoot. And ironically, I have a neighbor across the street whose very good friend from high school is the head of costume design. So she's been an extra on Ozark. She played a
That's awesome.
in the casino. And she has promised me that when filming starts again, she will get me a role as an extra on Ozark. So I am living for that moment. Okay, so we've been watching TV, we've been binging. What about binge eating? Any new snacks?
No, I actually have never been a snacker, and I've never really been a binge eater. So I live alone, so I tend to kind of, for lack of a better term, meal prep, but I don't mean to do that. I'm addicted to my Instant Pot. I even bought the air fryer attachment. So I usually cook a big meal on Sunday or Monday night, depending on my schedule. And I'm boring. I eat the same thing for dinner. Like it's 90 degrees out here, and I made white chicken chili this week because that's what you make when it's 90 degrees.
Right.
So I'm actually pretty good about it. I have one addiction, which lucky for you guys does not exist outside of Los Angeles, but there is a grocery chain here called Lazy Acres. Plug for Lazy Acres because they're my favorite place in the world. Better than Wegmans. Sorry, Wegmans. But they're right across the street, and they have the thing that makes fresh peanut butter. And so they have a honey roasted peanut butter, and I will literally eat it by the spoonful. So that's probably my one binge.
Yum. And final question for you is, when we come out of quarantine, when it's safe to travel again, when we're all comfortable with going somewhere, where is the first place that you want to go?
This is the most boring answer ever, but I'd like to go to Maryland to see my mom.
Awesome. Awesome. So I will tell you, I was in Maryland, actually. I've got family there too. And I was there at the beginning of July. First time I'd been on a plane in months, but actually felt fairly safe with flying. So yeah, I think for me, and I told you this when we talked, I love LA, I love Southern California. So I am living for the opportunity to head towards the West Coast, and very hopeful that you and I will be able to sit down over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, even if it's social distance, and be able to do this face to face.
Absolutely. I welcome the opportunity. I really hope that you guys can get out here soon.
Me too. Jill, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's been a blast having the conversation, and I know that this is just the first in a series of many more conversations that will come between us.
I hope so.
Me too.
I hope so. Thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks,
and best of luck with everything.
Thanks, you too, and we'll talk again soon.
Great.
Take care.